Hello and welcome back. My name is Russell, and this is part 2 of our mini-series where we create a basic web app using React, Vite, and Tailwind. In part 1, we just did the basic installation and setup of everything we'd need to create a pretty basic web app with that tech stack. And today we'll just be doing the coding and actual development of that app. So what we'll be tackling is everything you see here, and not necessarily in this order, but we will be following this basic structure. So we'll do some more Tailwind configurations. We'll set up the home page, create a sticky navbar or a footer. We'll set up some basic routing and some W pages so that we can actually make sure that routing works as expected. We'll be making sure throughout this process that our app is responsive to both mobile and desktop views. We'll do some extra checks, some cleanup, and then we'll push all these changes to GitHub. And if all this goes off without a hitch, we'll have a little dance party. To actually take a look at the final product we will be making today, if we look here, this will be what we'll be making. So just a basic web page. There's the sticky navbar here, and footer. We can click on this and go check out the Tailwind docs, which should be useful to you. Once you port this repo, begin working on it. The routing up here looks to work as expected, and then if we go into mobile view, we can see that it changes a little bit. So the header moves to the very center, navigation changes like this, and still works as expected, and I'd say it looks pretty good. So that's what we'll be making today, and without any further ado, let's get into it. npm run dev, that'll just make it so that we can actually see the project we're working in, and this is where we left off. Looks a little different than the final project we're working on, so let's get to work on that. So the first thing I like to do is to change my folder structure a little bit to match how I'll actually be working. So some common things I do is in the source folder here, I'll make a new folder and I'll call this pages. Another one I'll make is common, and the final one I'll make is components, like so. For pages, an obvious one we're going to want to make is a home.jsx. And we'll start off here, and we'll use this command we talked about earlier, rfc. Perfect. My linter is just getting mad at me because this is the font it ever used. So I'm just going to get rid of that. We don't really actually need it, and that's looking good for now. I'll just put home, and there we go. I need I'm going to make a few more pages for now. We're going to make these a bit more, I guess, interesting. Not too much, but more than just a div with home. So let's go contact.jsx, and this one will go RFC again, and contact. Save that, and one more. Let's call this events.jsx. Perfect. Okay, so RFC. Get rid of this. And we'll put in events. Okay, so these are the pages we now have. And the next thing let's do is let's go over to index.css, and we're going to do some global configurations for our Tailwind. So how we're going to do that here is we're going to go at layer base. And so this just means this is going to be a global configuration. This is going to apply to everything inside of our Tailwind configuration. So we'll go to body here. Oops, not like that, like that. And we're going to go margin 0. Oh, padding 0. We're going to go height 100%. And we're going to go overflow. Oh, yeah, let's give that, there we go, overflow X. We'll give that hidden. Okay, so margin is how much space an element has around it. Usually go margin left, right, top, bottom. Padding is how much space the inside contents have from the element. And I guess what I mean by that is here, say we have, let's go to home to make an example. We have a div, and inside that we have a div. So if I go P2, that means that this div, because this is inside of this one will have 8 pixels of space between the outside edge of this element. However, if I go M2, this element will have 8 pixels of space between everything inside of this one, or the edges and margins of this one. Well, margins, edges. So it's sort of padding is controls inside and margin controls outside. And that's really all there is to that. So what we're doing in this next here is just saying everything is straight 0 for now. There's no padding and no margin. The height is 100% of what we have available, and overflow x hidden just means that if anything goes across the page left and right and goes over, we're not going to create a scroll bar that you can scroll left and right with. It's just going to be hidden. So we're going to go with that. And I think that's all we need right there. So now if we go to the common, there's a few files we're going to want to make. So we're going to make footer, feeder, footer.jsx, and again, we'll go RFC. Told you this thing's great. And for now, this will just say footer, and we'll actually give this class name bgred100, just so it's super obvious where this is. I guess we'll also give nav-bar RFC, boom, and we'll give this nav-bar, and we'll give this class name BG, and BG just means background color, by the way. We'll go green and 100. These numbers I'm putting are just, actually we can go check out Tailwind real quick. So if we go here, we go to Tailwind, and we go to colors. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. This is basically the map. So this is already in, like these color and this scheme is already default. You can extend these themes, and there's ways to go about that. We're not getting into this video, but these colors and how to reference them. So if I wanted to do, say, text, and I want that to be this red color here, I go text red 700, and it would automatically apply this one right here. And so yeah, these are all available to you. I'll be using these pretty much throughout this demo here. Cool. Anyways, back to the code. So navbar, there we go. Let us now go to app.jsx and let us put in, and now this is how now I'll show you how you actually reference some other code we have. So we have this footer here, we have this navbar here, and we have this home here. So let's go to app.jsx and let us go, we'll get rid of this for now, and we'll go, oops, navbar, and you'll see that there. Closing brace, perfect. We'll also go home, perfect. And then also go footer. So we'll do all that. And if we go back to here, yes, you see we have these colors, perfect stuff. Okay, so now we're getting there, but we kind of want the navbar to be here, the footer obviously to be at the bottom, and the home to be everything else in the middle, at least for now. So let us go about that. All right, so I think the next thing we're going to do is make sure the footer is actually at the bottom. The home has a bit more going on with it, and the navbar can sit at the top here, and we'll work on that last. So let's go back to here. We're in our footer component here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to give this a specific height. So let's go, oops, h, and one of the ways I like to do height is I'll go like this, calc, which just means calculate, and then some number and view height. So this would just mean 20% of the view height. So if this is 100%, 20% should be like right about there. We're also going to make this sticky, and we're going to go top 100 view height. So just we're saying this is from the top 100%. So we're making sure this is pushed straight to the bottom. And we'll give this, go BG 500. Let's take a look at that. So let's go back here. And something didn't quite work out. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I might want to try a darker version. Let's try 700. Oh yeah, okay, good stuff. So right now you'll see that this isn't quite actually at the bottom. And the problem is really just comes down to here where this app isn't really using the entirety of the space. So what we would need to do, class name, and go screen. So now if we go back, this will be at the very bottom. Perfect. Okay, so now this is at the bottom. Home is here. So for home for now, we do want to fix that a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to create a few divs inside of this. Div. All right. So this one we're going to make class name, and we're going to use some classes I use quite a bit, which is flex call. So flex just means use the flexbox group. It would be a video in and of itself to talk about what flex and flex layout is. I certainly looked it up, and if people want me to make a video on that, I certainly can. Anyways, so that's what we're going to put there. And flex call just means column. So we're going to do flex call. We're going to go justify center, height full, width full. And we're going to do full for now just because we're not too worried about sharing the space with everything else. It's just this one thing inside of here. So for this one, we're going to go class name flex row. We're going to use these exact same things here, so we'll just copy them there. Maybe we don't need these. We'll just go items center. Justify is also, it's just sort of a property of Flex. I'm not going to get into it too heavily other than justify center and item center is very common front-end development for if you want to center an element and make it align with everything else in the same grouping. So let's take this, put this right there. And we'll put this inside of a span, which is a common way to organize your text. We'll give this class name as well, and we'll go text LG, which just means large. We'll also go text, let's go red 700. Cool. So now if we go back, perfect. And yeah, this is looking great. So this, because we went full, this is now there, but if we go any down, any higher, we can see that we actually hit those other things. I'm actually going to get rid of that because I don't think we need that. I'm just going to get rid of both of these. Okay, and we'll go justify, we'll go h full. Let's get rid of that and we'll put h full in here. Cool, that looks good to me. Yeah, that's pretty good. We're gonna go back to our footer and do a few more things there. So let us create another div. Good stuff. This one will go class name And because we're in React, we use class name and most other just like HTML. This would just be class, but because we're working in React, we have to use the special property class name. And so we'll start here with width full. We'll also give this a height full. Flex column, justify center, items center, which is probably something you're going to see you do a lot. Cool. Oops, back. Get out of that one. Give this another div. And this one we're going to go class name. And again, we're going to go flex row. And just justify center for this one. Cool. All right, so this one, we'll give this a span. We'll just make this class name text white. And that's because we have this dark background here. And we'll go put this up there. We'll go some footer text. That makes sense to me. All right, so let's take a look at that. Some footer text. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay. On this, so this is row, so justify center. So if I put anything else on this same inside of this div here, because it's a flex row, it'll kind of like be like, you know, one beside another. If I put something, say here, which is inside of this one, because it's column, it would be one on top of another because of the column structure. Anyways, probably already knew that, figured I'd mention it anyways. We are actually going to put inside this guy. We're just going to give an A tag. So let's go like that. And and we'll say Google, because that will probably become quite handy to you in your web development career. We'll give this an href, and we'll go https google.com. And we'll take a look at that. Perfect. It's a little close. So something we can do is we can use their class name, and we can go, and this is to the left. This will go margin left 4. When you work in Tailwind with Tailwind long enough, you'll kind of know most of these commands off the hop, and it just makes it really quick to do things. But anyways, we take a look at this, and there's a bit of a margin there. Cool. So let's make another one of these. This one will go, what would be used? Tailwind docs. We're going to put Tailwind docs in there. So we'll go tailwind css.com/docs. I think that should be all we need. And we'll go tailwind docs. Give that an exclamation point as well. And sweet. Good stuff. Let's put something below this div here. So let's put that right there. We'll just give this, we'll make this a div. Even if I'm just putting a single span, I generally like to put it in a div because when you're using Flex, the Flex system, it usually controls things inside of itself. A span, which has children of text, would control that, but I generally like to keep things consistent, just put everything inside of a div that I want to throw a flex box, and then whatever's inside of that, I apply classes that control them a bit more directly and not, you know, their children as text or anything else like that. So here we're going to go flex row, justify center, and we'll give this P2. So you saw ML for margin left 4. P just means padding and all like, you know, up, down, left, right 2. And then we'll give this a span, give this class name of text white, and we'll give this some other footer text. And there we go, just so that shows up below. And as a footer, I think that's good enough for our purposes for now. Next thing we will work on is we'll actually create a route table. and we'll set up everything for that. So let's head back over here. I'm going to put that in components. So we'll go new file, router.jsx, RFC, good old friend, RFC. And we're actually going to put a few things here. So we're actually going to make this what we're just going to render in add.jsx. So let's set that up accordingly. So class name, and we're going to go width screen, height screen, and then overflow x hidden. All right. We're also going to put our navbar. Oops. In there. We are now going to actually need to get an external library to help. Very common is React Router. I like using the ultra lightweight version called Wouter with W. So let's go ahead and grab that. So I'm gonna Control C, and we're gonna go npm I Wouter. Whoops. Let that run. There it goes. Good stuff. npm run dev. Cool. Import a few things. What I want is route. Perfect, from router. And we also want switch. TCH. Oops. Good thing I can spell. All right. So we're going to go here. We'll go div and we'll go switch. And then we'll go here and we'll go route. And there's a few things that we need for a route. And first is a path. So since this will be the default path, this will basically be our home. We're just going to go here and just give it just the path of slash. That means that the URL is just the base URL. If there was slash, say, events or something else, it would be the base URL slash events. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. But for now, we're still component. And let's go home. And there it is. So now we should be able to save this. And you know we're also actually just going to give this a footer just so that this looks good. There we go. So save this. Go to app.jsx. We're actually going to nuke all this. And we're just going to put in router. There we go. Our linter is just mad that we're not using everything we're declaring, so we can fix that in 2 seconds. Save that, and we should be able to come back here. And perfect. Yeah, this is looking exactly like what we want. So we also have these 2 other things. Let's toss those in there for now, and we can actually still check that that's working. So we'll go back to our router. We'll put that above this. You always want the default path, the home, to be at the bottom. There's a good reason for it that I'm not going to get into in this video. So route. We'll do a closing thing, and we'll go path, and we'll go yes. We got events, and component will be events. Perfect. And we'll do it one more time. And this one will be slash, we got contact, cool. Contact, and this one will be obviously contact. Cool. So now we save this. These do have things there. Okay. I'm gonna give each of these class name, margin top, and we'll give this 32, and margin left 20. And I'm gonna copy that. Save that in events as well, just so that our navbar doesn't overlap it. And so now we should be able to go here and go, oh my god, there we go, events. Make sure I spelled it right. Perfect, events. And then again, we should be able to go contact. And this is what I meant by like the URL pathing, right? And then if we just go to that one, back to home. Great. So now our router is set up and seems to be working as expected. Next, let us tackle our home page and make that a little bit cooler. We're at the home here. So we're going to give this height full, width full. Again, I know I took it away previously. We're giving it back because we're going to be doing something kind of cool here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paste this lorem ipsum array. Now the reason it's an array is one of the cool things about React I want to show you. So this array is just a bunch of string values. There's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And what we're going to do is map over them and render them dynamically. So first thing we're going to do actually is, okay, we're going to get rid of this red 7. Yeah, this will just be black. Let's just make that black. And we'll make this strong. And we'll put home side of it. So strong just means sort of like bold, or it's just like a stronger font. Let's row just some center. We're going to get rid of height full here. Good stuff. And if we go back to there, home, cool. So let's go back here. I'm going to make this actually 2XL. And we're also going to give this margin top. And we'll actually give this just margin. We'll actually MY. That makes it so that this targets both top and bottom. MX will target both left and right. And we'll give this a 5. And save that. Cool. So that's a little bit from there. Good stuff. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go, this is the row, so we're going to go here. And we're going to go div. And we'll give this class name of flex column. We'll justify center. And we'll give this one as well padding top and bottom, and we'll say 10. 10? Yeah, we'll say 10. We can change that later if we need. And then what we're going to do is inside of this, we're going to do, we called this lorem ipsum. Cool. So lorem, wow, ipsum. And whenever you want to use like a constant or anything that is declared outside of this return statement, you generally have to put it inside of these curly braces. So I'm just saying this, and if this exists, double and just means, okay, if this exists and can access it, this double and means, and therefore render it. So we're going to render it like this, dot map, and here we're going to go I and index, and here we're going to open this up, and we're going to give this just a span, and this will be I. Oh, it probably needs a key. I'll make that index. That makes sense. We'll also give this a class name so we can do some cool stuff with it. Like we'll make the text medium. Make sure the text is black. We'll also give this px of 10. What that just means is like we're going to padding. Remember we talked about that controls the inside space between a child and its parent. So we're going to say, hey, make sure you're at least, I guess in this case, 40 pixels between the parent and myself. And we'll also give this a py of 2. All right, so now if I save this, we should actually have perfect. And that's looking pretty good. So the PY is just giving this a bit of a space between each of these. And this is obviously the PX is right there and right there. We have quite a bit of space between there and there. Maybe I will just make this empty. Does that change anything? I think it must have. Okay, That's looking pretty good for the home page. I guess what's left is to work on the nav bar. All right, so let's get into it. The nav bar is actually our most complicated component we're making in this app. I've decided that I'm actually just going to paste the completed code I have for this. I'll go over it that way just so that there's less of me tripping over my tongue and trying to code at the same time. So I'll paste this here. This is the completed code we'll be using. And let's look it over. So the first few things we're going to look at is use effect and use ref new state. These are called hooks. They are specific to React as a framework, and you can create your own, but these are default provided by React itself. UseState manages just like constants in React, so just variables. So it makes sure that between renders, the variables are updated accordingly, so there's not a mismatch between what you expect to be there and what the DOM expects to be there. UseRef sort of just creates references to certain elements so that you can track them a little better, and use effect just makes it so that you can have certain functions and or calls trigger on renders of the DOM. So that's how that works. Getting into quickly, just a few things. I made this nav PG here. This just is like, we have like that teal color for the nav bar. That just makes it so that since I reference the background color a lot, if you can just change it one place. Also, now that we've saved it, let's just quickly look at this. So if we go over here, we can see that this actually is looking pretty good. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. We have home content events. This routes properly, good stuff. We have a slight shadow there. And then if we go into this, you'll see it is responsive, and we do have everything we expect there to be there. So that's all looking pretty good. Back to the code. So there's quite a bit going on before we can get to our return statement, which actually gives us our HTML. Quickly to go over a few things. Drop down open, set.open. That's that use state that I was talking about. It defaults to false, and there'll be there's basically this is the value of the use state, and then this will be the setter for it. So there's a few times we're going to be setting this drop down to be something other than what it is. Toggle drop down, handle click outside, or 2 times where we would. This drop down is basically using a useRef. It starts off as null, but then we're going to attach it to something eventually. And then we have this other use state. Basically here we're just checking is the window inner width. So basically is the screen size less than this many pixels. And if it is, it's a phone. And if it's not a phone, it's a desktop, and we'll kind of treat them as such. So getting into it, use effect. That's one of the things I was talking about. Basically, there's this function here. It's called use effect. It's always used the same way. It starts off with this, and then everything inside basically is run whenever this dependency array is triggered. If this dependency array is left blank, it triggers once on load. If there's, say, like you had like some sort of API call, so like on API success, all of this would run when on API success triggered. However, since it's empty, it just happens once, and it's just basically checking to see if the screen size is changing. And if it is being like, is it mobile? Yes or no? If it is, we'll change this to set as mobile and just do that. This is this drop down. So this is specifically for, if we go here, this is the drop down. So we're basically toggling, is this open or closed? So, if we go to contact, now it's closed. Now it's open, now it's closed. Now it's open, now it's closed. So that's what the toggle dropdown is doing, or this state of managing. So this is like checking to see if it's open or false, and this is setting it. Toggle dropdown is just running this function of like, setting this value. And so how it's running is like, what was it previously? Okay, now it is this is a banger operator. Now it's the opposite of what it was previously. And this handle click size is basically doing the same thing. However, it's using, remember we talked about there was this ref. This ref is set here in this div inside the dropdown. What that means is we're basically just associating this element here as the ref to that. So if you target anything outside of that, it closes. So that's what's going on there. We have another use effect over here. This one is the one that's handle clicks outside. So this is just always checking if once it's open, so dropdown is open, and whenever that's open, it checks to see if you clicked outside. And then on cleanup, there's a return statement, and this is true for all use effect. If you add a return statement, that's where you would add any cleaning up of resources to avoid memory leaks or anything else like that. Getting into the actual HTML, fixed with full and Z20. Z20 just means there's ever two elements. Yeah, so right here, if I scroll down, there's below this teal bar here is some text. However, because the teal bar has Z20, that's the highest value of any Z value in this app, and so it just takes priority and will always appear layered on top of everything else. Top 0, start 0 just means that this is always at the top, and fixed just means it's never going to move. Shadow MD, there is a small shadow, it's hard to see, it's very slight. We can make this a bit more visible. We need to go double XL, is that thing? 2XL? Yeah, that's a little bit more visible. Anyways, we're just going to make that MD because I think that looks a little more reasonable. Yeah, there we go. So that's what that's doing. We have this div here. The main thing it's doing, flex wrap, that just means that things are, if anything goes over the size of the element it's within, it'll just wrap around as opposed to being clipped, cut off, or anything else. Justify between, there's a few different justifies. Right now, oh, this is actually a great example. So right here, there's two elements, or two divs. This React demo thing, and all of these are inside of a div. So since there's two, justify between kind of just takes them and puts them, kind of spaces between them. There's a padding on the outside. That's why they're not the very bleeding edge, but that's why it looks like this. So you'll notice that when I go to mobile view, the React demo kind of goes to the center. So what I'm doing there is I'm using justify between still. However, when inner width is less than 768 pixels, I'm adding this blank div here. And what that does is it puts a div between this, this, and this. So this blank div is right there. And that just makes it so when I do the justify between, it kind of just pushes this to the center. That's just a little trick that makes it look really good. So that way you can have this look good for a desktop and this be centered for mobile. Anyways, so this MD, you'll see colon, and this is just using breakpoints. Breakpoints is something that you'll commonly run into when you're doing responsive design. So I guess design for desktop and mobile, especially in like the way Tailwind does it. MD is just, their breakpoint for 768 pixels, what I've been using for determining whether things are mobile or not. And so what this is saying is if this is greater than that, it's not a mobile phone, and therefore we're going to add padding left. Otherwise, this doesn't exist at all. Okay, so next we're going to go here. So this is kind of interesting. So we have this hidden, which means display none, which means that we're just not going to show this. However, we also have this MD, and you'll notice that flex is actually a display quality. So you'll see here for display none versus display flex. So if this is we're doing a ternary here, and I'll explain that in a second. Actually, I'll explain that now. So this bang means is this is mobile and is this not? Basically, we're saying is this desktop with this operator, and then there's is a ternary. If there's a single question mark after this, we're saying whatever this turns out to be, is it true? If so, we're going to render this section of code. Otherwise, and that's what this colon here says, we'll render this section of code. Ternary are very useful, and you'll probably use them a lot. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying this is hidden unless screen size is bigger, unless it's not in this desktop, in which case we're displaying flex. And we're going to do a few other things as well. Flex column, MD flex row. Probably don't need this flex column at all because if it's not mobile, it's just going to be there. I'm just going to get rid of that and save that. Yeah, that doesn't change anything. Yeah, that's still good. All right, cool. So that's how that's going there. And then we have, and we're basically just rendering a list. UL stands for unordered list, LI stands for list item. So we're just rendering a list of links. Links are the buttons we're using to route. It's a function of, we're getting that from Wouter. And what it's doing is we're saying, hey, link to, so like, go to the path here, and this will be the name of the button, and that's all there is to that. So obviously here, we'll just go back to here. Contact, this is going to go to the contact page, and we're going to get to contact. Otherwise, our home, and it's going to go to just like, the home path. So that's if this is not mobile. However, if it is mobile, we're instead going to render this button, and it's just this thing here. So that looks like that. And toggle dropdown is what it's going to do on click. And so that's going to toggle this dropdown to appear. And then there is going to be a whole bunch of our buttons and links again. And also when you click on them, it's going to toggle the dropdown. And if you saw previously up here for toggle dropdown, where was it? The value will just be the opposite of whatever value it was. So if it's open, it will then be closed. So if I click on this, it will now be closed. It's open, I click on this, and now it's closed. And that is basically how our navbar is working. I kind of speed ran through that, but I think I gave it a fair shake. If you have any specific questions about what's going on in here that I failed to cover, just leave a message in the comments, and I can always dig into it further, either in the comments, or if I really need to, I'll make a video that where I actually code this all out. So let's go work on some of the other pages. Contact. Now they're over here, let's fix up a bit. So let's get rid of this. Margin top 32. Let's actually just give that to our router since we kind of want that for everything. Class name, margin top 32. That'll be pretty good. And how does that look? Let's find out. That's okay. I'm just gonna go to the home, remove this 5. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so back to here. Let's get rid of this, and we'll just go flex call like we do in justify center. And then we're going to give this another div. And we're going to give this one class name. Ooh, not children. Class name. Flex row. I'll go justify center. And we'll give this px4 so that if it goes into mobile, and there's some length to it, it's never gonna like look really badly. This here, and let's or anything else. And I think that should look good enough that we can, yeah. I guess one thing we can do is we can put that inside of the span. Wow, it's not capital. Span, there we go. You notice I move things up and down like this, but I'm just putting my cursor or whatever, not cursor, focus line on whatever I want to move. Hold down Alt, and you can then just press up and down. I'll just move that around. Quite handy. All right, so here we're gonna go class name, and we'll go text. We'll go LG. Make that a bit bigger, and yeah, good enough. That's looking fine for me. Okay, events still over there, so let's bring that into the fold, and so let's go to events. And actually what we can do is we can just go back to our contact, grab all this, toss that to event, and we'll say events. Here we can do whatever we want. Website is yours. I'll just go events. I'm trying to be creative and nothing inspiring is coming to me, so let's not force it. Events, good enough. Okay, so now we have events, contact home. Everything is saved. Click on this. That's all looking pretty good to me. All right. Now let's take a look. I think we're actually getting pretty close to wrapping up here. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Package.json, we'll give this a 1. Now let's push this to GitHub. Go back to our terminal, Control C, make sure you're at the right path, and then let's just git add, and we'll do that dot again. This means add everything inside this path. Git commit -m, and here we're going to leave a message stating what we did. Now, normally I'd recommend that when you're developing something that you do smaller pushes when you implement certain things. So maybe when we implemented the navbar, or maybe when we implemented the home or set up the router, we could do pushes at those points. But since we kind of just did it all at once, we're going to do create home, contact, and events pages, create router and connected pages through that, set up navbar with routing and a footer, added CSS through Tailwind with to everything and ensured mobile responsiveness throughout. Yeah, there's probably a spelling mistake or two in there, but we're not going to worry about it. We'll go Bob Ross and say happy little mistakes. Press enter, and we've staged all of the changes. So now we just need to push them to GitHub. So we'll go git push, oops, git push origin main, and that's that. This is now up on GitHub.
We did it.
So yeah, the name. The final project we have is a Vite React Tailwind
Good job, everybody.
web app. Got it of defaults, and we added some nice to have Tailwind settings. We didn't get too crazy there, but we did add some things that are quite useful. We have a footer with navbar. We decided not to go with the header in the end, mostly because the navbar took care of that. We have a few pages and routing set up for that. And as I said, the repo will be in the video description, so you can just go ahead, fork that, it's public, and use that for your own projects. And of course, you can change it once you forked it to however you want. Use that as a template for yourself, for your own personal projects. Today, we specifically in this video, we made the homepage, navbar, footer, set up all the routing, created some building pages, and pushed that all to GitHub. Also, we ensured that this web app is mobile responsive, looks good on desktop as well as mobile. So dance party, we did it, good stuff. And yeah, if there's anything you particularly wanted me to get into further, whether that's setting up Tailwind, one of the things I generally do in my personal projects that are larger is I set up post CSS, which just means that I can extend the themes a bit more thoroughly, which is just kind of create a bit more extensive globals. There's probably a way to do it with the current setup I have, but I'm just more familiar with the other way. And if something you're interested, I can definitely make a video on that. Same thing with React hooks. I mean, there's plenty of topics. I'm not going to list them all here, but if there's anything you do want to see a video on, happy to do it. If you're happy with this, leave a like, thumbs up. This is Russell from Wizarden. Thank you for watching.